Okay, aloha kako. Welcome everyone. Welcome, good evening. To open our meeting this evening, I would like to welcome up Father David Stout to share pule with us. Welcome, Father.
Thank you. Aloha. Thank you for having me with you. God be with you. And pule kako. Lord God Almighty, we pray your presence, your spirit, your mana to anoint this time together, that as we come together in community to care for our community, we pray that all we say and we do gives us grace and love and your wisdom and your guidance. We pray in all the ways in which our community and its great diversity, we come together in that love for one another. We ask this in God's holy name. Amen. I ask, if I may, and I was told it's okay to make this public, that Kahu Danny Akaka had a brain hemorrhage today.
Oh, no.
And Danny is in hospital, and they are looking at airlifting him to Queens on Oahu. So and I was told it's okay to make that public because they're asking for our prayers, but they're asking, please, nobody go to hospital, give them space. But if it's all right, could we say a prayer for Danny real quick? Yes. Lord God, we pray your spirit, your grace upon Danny and Anna. We pray your healing be with them. We pray for the doctors and nurses and all who care for them. We ask this in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Mahalo nui, Father David. Thank you for your time this evening, and thank you for those prayers. My name is James Eustace. I'm the president of the Waimea Community Association. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Tonight we are gathered in a hybrid setting. We're here at Tutu's house with friends and family, community members, and also those joining us online. Thank you for joining us. As always, I encourage you to follow, like, and subscribe to the Waimea Community Association on our social accounts. You may also find relevant information and resources up on our website at waimeatown.org. We do strive to keep our accounts active and up to date. This evening, we're streaming both to YouTube and Facebook, and this recording will be made available for later viewing. At this point, I would like to recognize my fellow board members, our Vice President, Mary Beth Lachek, our Secretary, Nancy Carr-Smith over here, and our directors, Patty Cook was up at the front, David Greenwell, Whitney Harvey, Len Nielsen Chong couldn't be here this evening, Riley Smith's also up in the front, and Chris Wong will join us a little bit later. And then I would also like to welcome up our newest board member and our treasurer, Victor Tom.
Yay! Welcome, and thank
you,
you
Victor.
for being our treasurer. I can't even think of the treasurer in quite a while.
Thanks,
You wanna
Victor.
say
Anything you'd like to say?
No, just I'm looking forward to getting to know everybody, working together with everyone.
Victor's the branch manager of the Waimea First Wine Bank.
Mahalo, Victor. Really appreciate your dedication to the Waimea community and really for your assistance in this particular role. So thank you, Victor. And on behalf of the Waimea Community Association Board, we are grateful for the support shown by you, our fellow community members, to hold these town meetings. Thank you all for your interest in joining us for our past meetings, for viewing and sharing those recordings. The Waimea Community Association is a nonprofit organization that strives to promote open participation by all the Waimea community, develop leadership, and support the smart growth of the region. If you'd like to support the work that we have done and help continue our efforts in this capacity and connecting with our community, you're more than welcome to donate or join as a member. You can always visit our website, waimeatown.org, or send us an email at waimeacommunityassociation@gmail.com if you need more information. Your contributions and your membership allow us to reach out and connect with the community in this setting and support the work that WCA has done for the past 60 years. Mahalo nui for all of your support. And we're also grateful for the generosity of Tutu's house and the Friends of Future this evening. It has been important to us to bring these meetings back in person while maintaining that relationship you've had with us over the past couple of years online. For this evening, we'll consider the future of Waimea as we explore the County General Plan process, as well as the critical resources of WAI. We have allocated time at the end of our agenda and in between different parts here for you to ask some questions of our presenters here this evening. We always appreciate community members sending their questions ahead of time. We'll do our best to capture questions that come in online, and those within the room here, we will call on you when that time's appropriate. And we'll do the best we can to address as many questions as possible. At this time, I would like to welcome up Captain Jeremy Evangelista and Community Policing Officer Justin Cabantin to share with us a few updates. Welcome, officers.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Sorry. I was trying to pull up something real quick, but not
Here, Captain.
I'm getting there.
Very good. That's perfect. Yeah,
over here is good.
yeah, that's
Okay.
perfect. Thank you.
So let's see. Fall, pumpkin spice everything, Halloween decorations going up. Enjoying it. We're enjoying the fall. Last month, actually, we didn't do too bad as far as crime and traffic goes, right?
Yeah, was
You want
good.
to go over that real quick?
Yeah, I can go over the crime and traffic report. Just a few announcements. Coffee with a Cop is gonna be on 10/26. That's a Thursday. It's gonna be at Waimea Coffee Company from 7 to 11. I just had one for National Coffee with a Cop Day on October 4th. And that was at Starbucks. We got a pretty good crowd out there. The newsletter went out already, so please share it when you get it. If you don't, if you didn't get it, you can get with James and I can get your email address.
And by the way, on that, we'll be updating it later on tonight or
Yes.
probably tomorrow with some more Iron Man information.
Yeah, yeah, and there's
So you might want to wait until tomorrow evening to open it up, and get the latest copy.
yeah, there's stuff about Fall Festival in there too, and then about Halloween safety. It's coming up. It's gonna be here sooner than you think. Yeah. And then Officer Robinson moved on, so he got reassigned. So, but he wanted to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. He's alive.
He
He
is,
is,
yeah.
very much so.
But for the crime for September, we had 9 assaults reported, 2 burglaries, 4 criminal property damage cases, 4 drug investigations. We did have 13 theft investigations going for our district.
13.
Thefts, yeah. And 3 unauthorized entry into a motor vehicle. 2 of those is probably gonna be more of a, they forgot their keys somewhere else and they found them later, so. And then we did have 7 major incidents in our district. So that's for the crime. And then for the traffic for the month of September, we did, our officers, Sakuala Patrol officers, issued a total of 609 citations. The 2 top ones are, of course, speeding with 150 and regulations 206. 90 moving citations are issued. Again, 35 seatbelts and 39 mobile electronic devices, cell phone citations. The officers did a total of 15 grant funded projects. 6 of those were speeding projects, 4 of them were distracted driving, and 5 were DUI projects. They initiated 9 abandoned vehicle calls for our district, and there were 6 major traffic collisions in our district as well, compared to 9 same time last year. There are no fatal accidents in our district, and the patrol officers did respond to 41 reckless driver calls within our district too. But that's a nutshell in the.
And then I want to say a couple of our major accidents were because they were government vehicles, that they were minor accidents.
Yes.
Because they're government vehicles, they're a major accident. So you
Yes.
can read up 1 or 2 from that count. Because it's
Exactly.
no injury, minor damage. It's just the fact that it's a government vehicle.
Yeah.
Thanks, Justin.
Mhm.
So October, I want to remind everybody, October is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So the president actually put out a proclamation. I linked to it in our newsletter. So when you get our newsletter, you can jump to that proclamation. There's also a couple links in the newsletter to the National Domestic Violence Hotline. It's thehotline.org. You can chat with a professional. You can call, you can even text the word start to 88788, and you can get resources. So if you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, there's help. There's help out there. Yes. Huh?
She's our.
The time.
Yeah,
Oh,
she's
sorry.
our-
Sorry. Can I plead for 1 more minute, please? Because there is actually something else I wanted to bring up, and I'm sure you folks have all experienced it, but the traffic in town. for the most part, they're able to manage so back up, that's state highways through a contractor paving from about Pu'unani area out to Mud Lane area. So they're in various stages on that project. For the most part, they manage the traffic pretty well. Delays are not unreasonable. For the most part, they manage the traffic fairly well. The delays are not unreasonable given the scope of the project. However, in recent weeks, there have been more than a few days where there have been very long delays. We're completely aware of that. I want to let the community know that I'm in frequent contact with the supervisor for that project. I give him feedback when people let us know that the wait times are very, very long.
Yeah.
He uses that information to hopefully get the contractor to adjust their strategies as well. And then he also reports back to me what their status is for the day, if they're going to pave, if they're not going to pave, what time they open the road and so on. When I last spoke to him after last week, Fridays, I think it was Friday's delays, he said they had about 12 more working days left on the project. So there is light at the end of the tunnel, folks. There is. And you can see when you drive the road, it's almost finished paving. So we got to bear with it for a little while longer. Hopefully not those super long delays, but those are caused by stuff that sometimes they cannot control. When truck breaks down, the asphalt plant breaks down, something, they got 6 trucks coming in, those trucks are stuck in traffic. So, we thank everybody for their patience. We know there's light at the end of the tunnel. We know it's a problem and we do provide them feedback. If there's anything that happens that would compound those traffic delays that, that we responded to, like maybe there's another accident, I will be sure and put something out on our Nixle service. So I encourage you folks to subscribe. Link is in the newsletter. And then you can also sign up for Everbridge, which is the service that Civil Defense and a bunch of other public safety agencies use. I linked in our newsletter to where you can download the app, because you have to download the app to use Everbridge. So thank you for the extra 2 minutes, Patty.
Yeah, it's a comment. One is the good news is the roadway is fabulous. The
Yeah.
paving work they're doing is amazing. The bad news is, I would like to be urging that if the wait is going to be more than 12 or 15 minutes, that there ought to be advisories by Nixle just saying, stay home, take an alternate route. If you're coming in from Hilo or Kona, go DKI. That communication needs to be stepped up.
Yeah, so
We're
state
willing to help with that leaving community.
So state highways has their own messaging arm,
Yeah, no,
and yeah, they do. And their district office is available by phone as well.
they never receive phone calls, and we never see. Maybe do you see a lot?
So I'll invite you to our traffic safety meeting next week, Tuesday. You can visit with me and the officers. We can talk more about this and the state highways. Yes, one last question before we move on.
They could use a chalkboard to expect 20-minute wait. People could turn around and go
Another way.
another way. Would be real easy and inexpensive to do that when they know they're going to have.
I think we'll have them on our traffic safety meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm sure they'll welcome those suggestions.
Come on in.
And Dave, what you call?
We're gonna move on if that's okay, just because we have a little bit of tight on time.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's all right. So we'll talk about traffic. I'll welcome you next Tuesday here, 5 o'clock, Tutu's house. Talk more about traffic and the woes that we have. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Thank you, officers. Appreciate what you do for us. Thank you. All right, sorry, I'm just gonna move on because I know we have a number of big topics to talk about here. I apologize. The Hawai'i County Planning Department recently released an updated version of the general plan. It is a critical blueprint for our communities, and the general plan considers and maps out a wide range of needs, growth strategies, land use, zoning, economic priorities, recommended capital expenditures, as well as environmental, cultural, and social equity protections. So tonight, we are grateful to be joined by our community members, fellow leads in the planning department. Our long-range planner, Bethany Morrison, is here with us as we explore this important document. Thank you, Bethany. And Janice, thank you for being here as well.
Thank you, James. Aloha, everyone. I'm Bethany Morrison. I'm a long-range planner with the County of Hawai'i Planning Department and project manager for the general plan update. So just want to be able to share with you folks briefly, because I know we're going to be short on time, I'll try and go through this quickly and then we can pause for questions where it makes sense. So if we can go to next slide, Janice. I want to cover the purpose of the general plan. A lot of people don't understand what it is and what it really does. Cover the process for the comprehensive review and update. Explain a little bit about this draft framework that we've just introduced. Give you an orientation to the draft itself and the mapping component that goes into that, and then follow up with next steps for opportunities for you folks to engage. So the purpose is set forth in our county charter, and it's very explicitly laid out that it's to set forth the long-range policy for the comprehensive physical, economic, environmental, and social cultural well-being of the county. But in kind of plain speak terms, if you can just click twice, sorry. It presents the vision for our future. It presents, you know, what do we want to look like in 25 years from now? And then it presents, one more click. It presents the planning tool for us to achieve that vision. And it's important to think about what the general plan is not. It is not a specific plan for development. It is not a master plan or a regional plan. We have community development plans that sort of cover that level. And it's not meant to be a fixed or inflexible document. It's meant to grow as our communities evolve over time. So that, sorry, just go back one more. That simple graphic is really meant to show sort of, it's this long range broad vision at the top, and then it works its way down into implementation, the things that actually work on the ground. And this is just another way of understanding the authority of the general plan. It really is the umbrella plan for our planning system for the county of Hawaii. Underneath it, you'll see how the community development plans fit in. You'll see how other plans like our water plan, where it fits into the system. And then ultimately those things flow down into county code, which impacts our permits, impacts how our budgeting is done. So it's really meant to be this comprehensive planning system that the general plan sort of leads from the charge. The scope of the general plan is very broad. It touches on every sort of component of our way of life. Here in Hawaii, we have a state jurisdiction, but we also have county jurisdiction. And our county jurisdiction is really our entire island. And so it looks at, what is our island going to look like? What are the needs, the health and safety needs of our island? What's the housing needs, the infrastructure needs? What about our recreation and open spaces and our natural resources? And finally, how are we developing a land use pattern that best reflects those values? The process for our general plan, before I get started on that, I want to just share a little bit of modern land use history with you folks. We actually have a really young land use history in Hawaii. It started off obviously with our statehood, and then counties went in to develop their county charters, which are like our county constitutions. And then after that, we set forth to develop a general plan. So this is only the third time we've updated that general plan since 1971. So you can imagine a lot has changed over time, but we don't do it very often. So this is a good opportunity to really understand our current situation and make sure we're planning for the future. Our process started in 2015 with phase 1, where we initiated the comprehensive review and asked for initial feedback. And so that's basically, we sent out a notice, including county council members, including our community development plan folks and the general public, to just say, hey, we're starting this process. What are your big concerns over the next 25 years? And so we got some feedback then, which guided then the following phases. So phase 2, we reviewed that input and started to prepare some recommendations based on the initial feedback that we got. Phase 3, we started 2019 was our first draft that came out into the public. And we had big public meetings all over the island to gather that feedback on that draft. We received almost 4,000 comments. And so that was pretty substantial. Then we really quickly ran into 2020, and we all know what happened during 2020. So We got hit with COVID, which was a great opportunity to learn and incorporate that into our plan. Also, they updated the census. So we had updated population projections that we could understand how many folks are coming into our county, where are those folks living, so that we could design our land use and infrastructure accordingly. And so then we used that information for phase 4 to prepare the recommended plan, which we released September 18th. So now we are in phase 5, where it's the public review of that recommended plan. Once we get through that component, we'll make any adjustments that are needed to address the feedback and move on to the adoption process, which goes before the planning commissions, and ultimately the county council is the decision maker on this draft. Quick on the framework. Our current plan is 2005 general plan. And so a lot has changed since 2005. There were a lot of considerations that weren't addressed by that plan that were tasked to incorporate into this draft. And so we really set forth to look at sustainability as being that core value that we wanted to draft the plan around. And that covers a lot of elements around how we develop, what we do about our local economy, and of course, how we steward our natural resources. So this is the vision for the plan. And then again, just a little bit more information about the sustainability principles and practices. We really have taken a holistic approach to understand, like, you can't talk about land use by itself. You can't talk about infrastructure by itself or housing by itself. They're all interwoven. And so even though those places are in the draft where we talk about those things, we had to consider, like, how are they impacted by those other sections, and making sure, again, that that's a sustainable approach to this. So it's pretty exciting because the 2005 general plan was very sort of siloed in the way that it was presented. Just a high level of how the plan is organized. It has vision and goals that establish, again, where we want to be in 25 years. What are the goals to get there? And then it goes more specific objectives and guidelines, the policies that we're going to need to implement to get there. And then finally, the actions, which is the on the ground needs that are needed to address code amendments, real property taxes, infrastructure needs, all the things that we actually have to do to get this done. Real quickly, I want to take you into the actual document, but first I just wanted to share how it's organized. You'll see that we have these chapters, which are on the left-hand side. We start off with our introduction, climate change, our sustainable development and resilient communities chapter, thriving, diversified, and regenerated economy, collaborative biocultural stewardship, and finally the implementation chapter. And then the various sections that are in those chapters are provided here so that people understand sort of where things are covered. And we are introducing a new platform for our plan. This is an online interactive platform. So folks can go onto the website, they can download the document as a PDF, they can comment directly inside the document and see other people's comments. And it really allows for a little bit more of that interactive mode versus everybody sort of preparing their comments, sending them into the planning department, and then they go into, sort of a place where our staff have to manually enter and manage them. Here, it's very transparent and open, but it does require a little bit of capacity building on our side to use a platform like this. So we're really trying to promote and make it accessible to folks. So real quickly, Janice, if you can just open the platform, I'll give you guys a quick tour of that so that you can become familiar. And then if you can just go to the very top. So this website is available. There's multiple ways of getting to it, but if you just type in COH Planning Conveo, KONVEIO. You'll find it. It's also available from our main planning department website as well. And once you go in here, there's a variety of information about the plan itself. The about page kind of gives you that overview that I gave you already. There's a video from our mayor on there that's talking about the plan and just sort of a bunch of information, how to participate, our upcoming events. All that information is located on that about page. And then to get into the document, there's a few ways to do it, but this is our most accessible. It's just the toolbar right on top that says draft review. And once you're in here, you'll see a number of buttons that come across on here. The table of contents, you can open and navigate to any section in the plan. There's page numbers. If you have a particular page number that you know you want to explore. This button here is to download the PDF. If you want to download the plan yourself and have it on your computer. There's a key word search that you can type in, you could type in trails and navigate to where that's covered in the document. And then the default is going to be on that comment button there. It starts off with the executive summary, which you can navigate and explore. If you want to hide that, you can just exit out of that and it'll go to the document itself. Down here, you'll see a few buttons. That summary was the executive summary. The search function is going to be everybody's best friend because you don't have to just scroll through the document. You can just type in a question that you might have. Like, where are we focusing residential growth? And it'll navigate through the document and show you where you're going to find those answers. So some people come at this with, very specific topics that they want to know about or specific questions, and you can just ask this feature and be able to access that information. So it's really been a great tool for us to help people get familiar. And then you can click on the page to find out exactly where those answers are. And then you can also just jump to the page within the document and it'll open that page for you to explore. Okay. Do we want to pause here for questions, James, or I'm going to keep rolling?
You were talking about the map next. Is that what
Map next.
Yeah, we can take some questions, then we can kind of divide the time a little. Is that all right, Terry, if we can manage that? All right, yeah. So we'll take a couple of questions, maybe about 5 minutes, and then we can move on. Yeah. Go ahead.
I use this tool before. It's really awesome to print this much within the hardware. I noticed there's a button that says explore and comment on maps.
Yes.
And then there's maps within the document. Is there
Yes.
one preferred way to comment, or they
We're-
both go to the same?
I'm going to explore that part right after this.
Okay, cool.
But yes, actually, they're going to both take you to the same place. We just try to put in as many opportunities for people to participate as they might as they're exploring the document, but it'll take you to the same platform.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The actions that are listed in the plan, is there an overall directory of those actions and what the timelines are going to be around them?
I think we're working on that for part of the appendix to the plan. So part of this is, this is the full plan pushing out, but then we're still working on what is the background materials that are needed to support this plan. And so I think, the action implementation table is one of those that we're working on with the departments. But yeah, thank you for that. Yeah.
Whitney in the back.
Mine was kind of similar to that as far as the consolidation of this plan when you're completed. Do you have a timeline estimated of when that will happen and then how those mechanisms will work to get it all into real life?
Sure. So our timeline, the comment period for this closes November 20. And then we'll be working on understanding and sort of chewing through the feedback that we got. There's also agencies that are also doing their review right now too. So State Department of Transportation, for example, will be providing us comments as well. So starting November 20, and probably earlier, we're already starting to see some of the comments, but we'll start organizing and chewing through those comments. The goal is to get it to the planning commissions by spring of next year. And those would be public hearings where people could come out and testify. And so if for some reason, your comment didn't seem like it was addressed adequately, you could say, tell the planning commissions, what your concerns are, and they could consider them during their deliberation. And then they make recommendations to the county council. So they can take several hearings to get through all the content and the recommendations. So the timing is a little bit hard to guess how long they might take, but let's say if we got to them in March and they took 2 to 3 months to get through it, that puts us, in June. And then that package would get delivered to the county council. So maybe if things go kind of smoothly, we're talking spring planning commissions, summer, fall-ish for county council.
Couple questions over here. Yes, Joy.
Is there a section on public transit and public access to public transportation, including safe bike trails on the highway?
Yes, I don't know if that specific thing is addressed, so I look forward to if there's feedback around that on our highways, but there's definitely mass transit is covered, and bike safety and bike trails are covered as well.
Bike safety might cover it.
Might, yeah, it might. And so again, we can use that tool to kind of test the document and say, hey, where, do we talk about bike safety on highways, for example?
The highway between 4 miles out of town and the center of Waimea is death.
Yeah.
For bikers.
Yeah.
Right now.
That's a question over here.
I just have a wording question on your first or second slide, says something growth plan. And I'm kind of triggered by growth plan, that growth is a strange word because it's like the assumption that growth is always a positive thing. But then I was happy to see I didn't see it used anyplace else. But growth is, growth isn't always a good thing. We have to deal with.
Yes, I hear that, and definitely there are some words that development is another one that people kind of, everybody has their own opinions about. However, our population is growing.
Yes.
And so we do have to manage the growth and understand where it is appropriate for folks to be living and working and all those things. So I think that's
my question is that it seemed like it was an overall comment about the plan.
Okay.
That overall it's a growth plan, and overall it isn't. It's a management of everything.
Exactly. Thank you for that.
Yes, Patty.
When it's going to the planning commissions, will it be simultaneous since Windward, or?
It will be submitted to them at the same time. However, Leeward and Windward have to hold their own separate meetings and will provide their own recommendations. So it's possible that one might move faster than the other. Mm-hmm.
Yes, one more, and then we'll shift to the map, if that's okay. Yeah, Mr. Crowe.
You're talking about growth, but and we just having this problem with the paving of the roads right now, right? What is the plan, the 25-year plan for expansion of the roadways? Because if our population is going to expand, of course, the roadways are going to get even more congested.
Yes.
And now our ideas are to put in roundabouts, so they slow down traffic even more. So what is the general plan going to address as far as widening a highway? Are you guys going to start using eminent domain to condemn land before you guys, when people sell their land, or you guys just going to let it ride and we're going to have 2-lane highways for the next 100 years?
So a couple things. This state is who manages our highways. And so this plan covers county and what our county roadways can do. However, the state looks to us about, what are you guys, what is your vision? And so we've been working with their office to understand some of the capacity projects, and also looking at, I know you guys are familiar in this community about bypass conversations if we're adding additional roadways to help with connectivity. And so those issues are definitely addressed in the plan, but it does not talk about widening of state highways.
So in other words, congestion is going to get even worse.
Not necessarily.
Yes. I mean, it could.
Yeah, I guarantee you it's going to get worse. It's bad now because the shippers don't want to goes to the North Road and delivered to Hilo because the piers are insufficient. They deliver it to Hawai'i and they truck it all the way to Hilo. And the same thing goes what you call.
Yeah.
They want to send stuff to Honolulu, they truck it over to Kauai.
They are currently, the state is doing their freight master planning effort. So I think happy to give you more information about how to get involved in that, but that is one of the issues that they are working to understand and address is sort of how freight is managed across the state.
Thanks, Bethany. So we'll come back
Yeah.
to a couple of questions if you want to dive into the map.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you.
So the maps, Janice, if you can just close this for a second, and then I can show them how to get there. There's several ways to access the maps. And so if you scroll to the top of the page, you'll see there's a button that's general plan maps. If you go a little bit further down, there's a button that says explore and comment on maps. And then within the document, there are blue icons as well that enter the map. So just it's all taking you to the same place, but trying to provide obvious places for folks to navigate. And then once you open that, also it opens in a pop-up window unless you click on one of the other options, it will open in a new browser window. So you can, again, kind of depending on what your preference is for how you're navigating. There's really good information about the map here. There's a video on our YouTube page about how to navigate and what the information means. But we can close that for now. And then on the left-hand side, you'll see various blue buttons, again, that help us to kind of navigate the different things. And so the top button is Conveo Link. So you can actually explore the map and hit that button and go right into the document where that issue is discussed. So it'll give you definitions and context about what you're seeing in the map. The next button down is Share Your Thoughts. You can click again anywhere in the map with Share Your Thoughts, and you can go in and insert your comments into that. There's different mapping pages. At this point, there's a land use map and a roads map that you can explore and navigate. Again, it talks about, the different connectivity routes that are needed. The legend is the next button down. And that just will show you what these colors mean. And then finally, there's sort of the help and the disclaimer button that hopefully you guys don't have to use very often. So again, the definitions to these are provided in the document, but if we just zoom in to Waimea, I think that's a great idea. You'll start to see some comments have already been provided in the map, and they'll show up and you can navigate them and understand what the comment is. But if you click on a feature, just click on any feature, you'll see the information about the general plan land use label is rural. It asks, was it revised from the current LUPAG, which is the land use pattern allocation guide of the current 2005 plan? And this says yes. And the current label is important ag lands. So there's a change happening to that designation there. So it just kind of gets you thinking like, oh, okay, what's that about? Then if you click on the Conveo Link document and click back on that property, doesn't matter which one you click on, you can click to learn more about what does rural mean. And it's going to take you into that document where rural is talked about. So it's meant to be interactive, and it should, and you can't break it. That's the other thing. We've been testing it, we've been trying it, we've been hitting all kinds of things, and it seems like it's pretty stable. So I would encourage everybody to go and try to break it. Try to push, because this is a new platform. And so the only way we're going to learn is by kind of pushing its boundaries and seeing what it provides. So that information.
Sorry, it didn't go. It just took me back to the name.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
There we go. Kind of weird.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we can explore that later. That's not good for our demonstration. So I think that was kind of my overall on the maps, is to just explore them and sort of test them out. They are also provided in hard copy in our hard copy, which we have a couple here today if you guys want to look through them as well. And just to kind of share with you what that future land use means, it does not take anybody's property rights away. It is meant to guide the future. And so future decisions about land use or infrastructure need to be consistent with that plan. But again, it doesn't change someone's zoning. It doesn't go in and require them to do different things. It's really meant to be forward-looking. And also kind of give us that vision. So it's not boundary specific to a property necessarily. That's just how we're able to map at this point. I think the next thing is just next steps real quick of how to engage and be involved. So we have video series that are on our YouTube channel, County of Hawai'i Planning. We're putting out social media, so please follow us on County of Hawai'i Planning. Follow us, like our stuff, and help us get the word out. We are doing in-person informational workshops. We did one last Saturday in Kona, and we're doing one this Saturday in Hilo. We're also doing online Zoom options for people that can't be in person or would rather not be in person. That same information will be provided there. We're doing roadshow presentations like this one here tonight, where communities invite us in to talk story and give information. And we're doing informational booths at larger community events to just help get the word out. So please come. We need your feedback in order to make this a good plan for our island. And again, the commenting period is now through November 20th. Okay.
So dive back into some more questions then?
Sure.
All right, yes, Patty, I saw your hand up first.
I'm curious about, if we put comments on it, does the whole world get to see what we said?
Yes, yes. So this is an interesting experiment, right? Because, yeah, everything that is shared with the County Hawai'i Planning Department, I don't know if you folks know that, but it's public record. And so there is not this, if you just email me, then no one will see it. People can still get access to that and request information. So we are trying to be open and transparent, but it does seem to be a little bit, people are having a hard time being upfront and honest about having their name on a comment. And so we are hearing some of that feedback. There are options that we could remove the name to make people a little bit more anonymous if they feel more comfortable sharing. There are ways that we can work with the platform, but that's at this level, yes, people's names are there, their comments are there, people can see them. Obviously, there's some protocols about making sure people are appropriate in the space, and we can remove people if they're not appropriate, but I haven't seen that yet.
Back over here, yes.
Yeah, can you walk us through a use case? Say I'm a property owner that's rural on the master plan, but I want to develop high density housing. What does that process look like once this plan is finalized?
Yeah, so if your property is designated rural on the general plan map and you come in and you say, I want to create condos on this property, that would not be consistent with the rural designation. And so most likely you'd get an unfavorable recommendation from the planning department to the planning commission. But if you're changing your zone, you'd have to go through the planning commission. Again, they sort of give their recommendation, and then ultimately the county council would make the decision on that application. Does that help you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Back to Patty, yes.
I'm sorry, keep asking.
No, I don't.
We've recently had a planning commission case here in Waimea, and there's a couple hundred people weighing in who don't live here. Do you know that, or can you tell that when comments show up, or?
Like a geographic location on.
We do have, when people go in and put their comments, it does ask for the district where they are at. It doesn't require any kind of a verification of that. And part of the reason that we're collecting that information is so we know which communities we might need to do more information sharing to get their input. As far as that planning commission example, yeah, there's nothing that says people can't comment. It's literally up to then the department and the commission to, address how they're gonna manage that, yeah.
Not seeing any other hands. Anyone else interested about the general plan or have questions about the documents or any specific aspect of it? Well, it looks like they're all ready to dive right in and provide
Excellent.
comments, I think.
Excellent. Thank you to the Waimea Community Association for having us here tonight too.
Thank you, Bethany. Thank you, Janet. Thanks for being there. I appreciate everyone's time with that. Thank you, Bethany. Thanks to the planning director and the planning department for spending time with us here. And yes, as Bethany shared, there is an opportunity to, at the informational workshops, there are other maps and things that are being shown in the space,
Yes,
right? So you can
yes.
kind of physically see. Okay.
Yes, and if folks come to the Hilo workshop on Saturday, one thing that I think people were not expecting that is the case is most of the county departments are there with us as well. This is a county-wide plan that it affects all of the departments. And so if you come, you have an opportunity to engage with all the other departments as well. So it's really a good chance to, if you haven't already, build those relationships and be able to ask questions of the other departments.
That's perfect. Yes, James, you had a question on that?
I think these county meetings like that, they should be more than just 2 hours because it's not a waste of time for me. Come from Waimea to go to Hilo, that's like 1 hour each way.
Yeah.
And then have a window of only 2 hours, and you probably have like 5,000 people gonna be there.
That's good feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kong. So yes, I do encourage you, this one is happening. We can maybe work towards other ones and, work with the planning department on other possibilities of meeting. I know these are the ones they have lined up right now. And then we wanted to provide this space and opportunity to learn about the document and be able how to work that on the website and help you submit your comments and feedback on the document. So thanks again. We're gonna just share up a couple of events that are in the community. I know we're gonna run through a couple of them quickly, and I'll have Nancy join me up here in a moment for one of them. These are just a kind of a touch on some of the events that are happening this month in October. So we did mention about these public information workshops with the general plan, the one that happened last weekend, and then one coming up at Auntie Sally's Luau Hale this Saturday. Thanks, Mary Beth. The next one, and like I said, these are just a couple from the month, and if they're not all here, we do try and put a lot of them on our Facebook page, things that come up and people request us to put them up. The Fall Festival, October 14th, this Saturday, it's going to be at the Waimea District Park, the Kalani District Park. It's run from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. A lot of activities there, informational booths, things for the children and the family, entertainment, food as well. And a number of us will probably be there as well, floating around. You'll see us there for sure. But it's probably a good opportunity to go to this because the next one is the same day, may keep you out of the Kona area. So if the Ironman's happening, just to let you know. So all the coastal roads will be kind of impacted by the Ironman. So there are some road closures and road impacts that Saturday. And I think that's good on that one for now. And then also just to touch on this, Luala'i's having their Halloween event. They're spectacular. They're in partnership with Parker School and Rotary. And they're doing a big event like they've done in the past years at the Luala'i subdivision. So you can kind of look out for that. A fun time to have there for the community as well. One thing before this, and I don't unfortunately have a slide for this, it's Pink It Up Waimea. I know we've talked about this at past meetings. Tammy Muronaka, who's a teacher at Waimea Elementary School, will be holding in, kind of spearheading that once again, Waimea Elementary School. This is really about breast cancer awareness. And so that is October 20th. So I hope to see everyone wearing pink that day in the community. And then the last one is really this one. Nancy's gonna come and talk about this one. And I'll just quickly say there's a whole bunch of stuff going on in Waimea right now. I mean, there's the Waikiki polo season's kicking off this weekend. There are a whole bunch of Kahului theater shows going on. So do plug into our social accounts, or particularly our Facebook page, if you're keen on those sort of things. So I'm just gonna have Nancy join us up here and speak quickly about our upcoming event and really our town meeting. This is really our town meeting for the month of November. So Nancy, if you'd like to say a couple words, welcome. Yeah, please. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, so the November town meeting will be our Mahalo to First Responders. How many people have been to Mahalo to First Responders? Only a few, but thank you. It's gonna be fabulous this year. It's more meaningful than ever because of the August fires. It's more important to us to make sure that we have a sincere mahalo to everyone who protected us and people's properties during those few days. So it's at Kahilu Town Hall, and it's an opportunity for us to thank everyone, acknowledge them. The mayor will be there. Chair Council Kimball will be there. The Sayer Foundation, who you may or may not be aware, have been responsible in providing some fabulous equipment for our firefighters, will be there. And we're focusing on volunteers. A lot of the paid guys, as I've learned, they refer to them as the paid guys. Say that you really need to think about the volunteers. They're the guys that stop what they're doing and go. Different from the paid guys who are at work. So we're really focusing on them this year. We'll acknowledge all of those, and then we'll have a fabulous meal together, and everybody is welcome. Families, keiki. So we hope you can join us. Anything else?
Yeah, we're also going to be recognizing, you know, all the first responders, and then
Yeah.
some of the support, the groups from the county departments that support them. So
Yeah.
Public Works that support those guys that are out there right on the front lines as well. So, and the hospital will be invited. Yes, so
Hospital
we
will be
have
there.
guests from a lot
Yeah,
of different
yeah.
sectors of our response efforts in our community, and really from this geographic area of the island as well.
Yeah. In the state level, do care, do fa.
Right. Yeah.
So hope you can join us.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. And then you probably see a couple of us wearing WCA t-shirts. So if you're interested in a t-shirt at all that says Waimea Community Association on it, please visit with Nancy. Happy to take that order for you if you're interested. Okay, so we're going to move on to our last portion and our final portion for our meeting. You know, after considering the opportunity to provide feedback on the county general plan, and while considering the importance of VI for our Waimea community, and really this final portion of tonight's agenda, we're grateful to be joined by a number of guests to enlighten us about this critical resource and the systems that we rely upon. So first up, I'd like to welcome up our fellow board member, David Greenwell, to really give us an overview of Waimea and some of these systems and some of the state operations as well to begin this conversation. Welcome, David.
Hello. I'm not a very good speaker, but I'm a good talker. I'm gonna follow that script. We all know that. My name is David Greenwell, and I work for the State Department of Agriculture and the Waimea irrigation system. In Waimea, there are two separate water systems. The potable or domestic water is managed by the County of Hawaii Department of Water Supply. The irrigation system is managed and operated by the State Department of Agriculture. Both systems draw water from the Kohala Mountains, but come from different sources. The County Department of Water Supply goes through a purification treatment plant, and the water that's used for irrigation is just raw water out of the mountains. The two systems are never allowed to mix or be plumbed together. This is an absolute to keep the domestic system from becoming contaminated. Just an aside, the people that get serviced by irrigation water in the Lalamilo Farm Lots area and the Pukapu Homestead area, that is an area that the Department of Water Supply is focusing on for backflow preventers. Both systems use water storage reservoirs to hold and store water that supplement during times of low rainfall. The county system also has two wells that can be used as needed, but when they use the wells, there's a cost added because of the pumping. Not directly to you, but indirectly to you. The state system relies on the Pupulehu or Lakeland Reservoir, which is 120 million gallons to hold water back when the water isn't flowing in through the ditches. As I stated before, the two systems are completely separate and will stay that way. The repair of the county system reservoir number 1 is not at all tied to the repair of the state Pukapu 60 million gallon reservoir. Coincidentally, each reservoir is being repaired, but for totally different reasons. The pricing structure of both systems are based on thousands of gallons used by the individual customers. The county system has a service charge and a tier system incorporated in their charges, and they bill bi-monthly. The county system also has the provision to give you larger meters if it's available, if support is available in your particular area, but they cost more. The county system infrastructure is extended as necessary, provided it can be supported with the existing infrastructure. At times, it may be privately constructed and turned over to the Department of Water Supply after construction. The state system has a monthly service charge and an additional acre assessment charge. That is based on the number of acres that are being used for the agricultural purpose. The state bills customers monthly. The state system is limited to property along the pipeline and has no plans for adding infrastructure. We're fortunate that both systems operate with offices and maintenance crews right here in Waimea and are open daily, Monday through Friday. Also, both departments have a good working relationship of cooperation and helping each other when needed. We have dedicated people to make sure that each system is reliable, to make sure we have all the water that we absolutely necessarily need. One comment that I'd like to make that I learned when I was on the County Board Water Commission is education and conservation go hand in hand with water use. There's people all over the world living, some in the desert, some in the rainforest. Education and conservation go hand in hand with water use and consumption. Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks, David.
This map here, I have this map here that shows the county systems in general and our ag systems also. If you want to come back and look at the map now, later, whenever.
Yes.
Where are the reservoirs?
The reservoirs that are behind town belong to the county. And the reservoir that's at the end of White Road or at the Lakeland area belong to the state.
Thank you. If you have a question for Mr. Kong over here.
Do they have any plans to revive the Lualai Reservoir at all?
No, that reservoir was decommissioned because that reservoir was a gravity system for the farm lots. The new system that was replacing that reservoir 25 years ago is a pressurized system. And the difference between pressure is coming down. We have breakers or clay valves, pressure reliefs, whatever you want to break the pressure so that it goes down to the end of the line at a minimum of 40 PSI.
So is it possible to revive it?
No, it's no longer there.
Because I was just wondering,
Yeah.
Since we're in a drought situation, if we revive that and use it like a dip tank for firefighting, wouldn't that be a good idea?
Yes, no, and maybe, okay? The reason I say yes is any available water. No, that thing doesn't fit in the system now because we have a pressurized system. But maybe someplace should have some sort of access to water for a fire protection out in this dry area.
Thanks, David. Okay, we're gonna move on. We're gonna welcome in our county partners as well. Thank you, David, for that lead off there and the overview of our systems. Thank you. So to further explore some of our county systems and provide us some updates on current and forthcoming projects in the area, I'd like to welcome in the Department of Water Supply Deputy Manager Kavika Uehara and Engineering Division Head Kurt Inaba. So welcome, Luke and Kurt. Thank you. Thanks for being here with us.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Waimea Community Association, for inviting us tonight. So glad to be here. Good to see familiar faces. And so just, yes, as James mentioned, my name is Kavika Uehara, Deputy at the Department of Water Supply, along with me with Kurt Inaba. He's our Engineering Division Head. So just a little background of our department. We are a county agency. We're semi-autonomous. So what that means is we report to our water board. So we have a 9-member water board. They are our governing body for the department. Our operations are funded 100% by the revenues that we generate through water, the delivery of water to our customers. And just so happens, Mr. Greenwell and Mr. Smith are past water board members. So they were our former bosses before, they still are. But so that's how we're governed. And what that means is along the way, we make long-term plans for our department. We're able to look at like what Bethany and the planning department is talking about, growth, where's that ideally where the island wants to happen. And then Kirk can mention some about that. It falls under his engineering division's responsibilities. But just a brief recap of our department. We have about 45,000 accounts island-wide. We service a little over 100,000 of the population on this island. In this Waimea area, we have a population served about 10,000, I believe, a little bit over 10,000. So as Mr. Greenwell was mentioning, our system is comprised of 2 surface water sources, Waikoloa Stream, Kohoakau Stream, and we also have 2 deep wells, Waimea Well and Parker Ranch Well. So like he mentioned, above town, we have the 2 sources, 2 stream sources. They flow into our open reservoirs. We have 3 50 million gallon reservoirs up there. And from there, it flows downhill into our water treatment plant. So about 5 years ago, we invested a little over $10 million to upgrade that treatment plant. Basically, it went from a conventional treatment to now a membrane treatment. So basically, these membranes are positive barriers to pathogens. And after it's treated through there, through the membranes, then we do our normal disinfection and other treatment before it goes into our storage tank, which is a 4 million gallon clear well above town, and then that flows out into distribution systems. So in general, our distribution system services Waimea Town, out to the airport, over to Mud Lane on the east, and mostly down Kauai High Road. That's our overall distribution system for Waimea. So at the department, our mission every day is to provide an adequate and continuous supply of safe drinking water in a financially responsible manner. So in a nutshell, that means when you open the faucet in the morning, water should come out. You should be able to clean. Yes, so that's my next one. You should be able to put in a cup, drink it, and not be afraid of getting sick or anything. And the financially responsible part of it is when you get your bill, it should be, reasonably affordable based on your usage. So that is our mission. It takes about 160 of us employees island-wide to make sure that's done on an everyday basis. There's a lot of our crews, especially in this way, all of the island, work day in and day out to make sure that that mission is met. That when folks do open that tap, water does come out and it's safe to drink. So with that, the other couple of things I wanted to mention, and I think it was brought up a little bit earlier, is earlier this week, we issued a news release. We don't do it that often, but we felt it was important that because of National Weather Service's outlook for dry conditions heading into 2024, that we felt it was appropriate to put something out because this system does rely on stream water and rain. And so just to create an awareness that we take it to heart and we monitor our systems daily, make sure that we have adequate storage levels up in our raw water reservoirs so we can continue to provide that continuous safe drinking water. If conditions warrant, and there's a prolonged dry season, we will make necessary notifications to the public about water conservation or water restrictions if necessary. I mentioned earlier, we do have 2 wells. So that is also our backup contingency plans, is we can operate these wells to supplement the system when there's a drier period. Those wells are sized at a certain capacity, so that's where we'll ask for conservation at that point to make sure everybody has water at the same time. So just wanted to put that out there, and let's see. Sure.
We were just hearing about, the growth plan for the island. Do we have enough water to support?
Thank you for asking. That's one of my bullets here. So as I was mentioning, the Waimea treatment plant was upgraded.
Mhm.
So right now, when we designed it and built it, it can produce up to 4 billion gallons a day of potable drinking water.
Okay.
Right now, we only need to produce about 2 million, less than 2 million gallons. So as far as treatment, as long as we have the stream water coming in into our reservoirs, our plant up there can treat as designed up to 4 million gallons a day. We also have enough space up there. If we retrofit some of the membrane basins, it'll take some more capital investment for that, but we can upgrade it to about 8 million gallons a day if we had to. So as far as treating the water, as long as we have stream flow coming in, yes.
So you're saying we have enough water?
Yes.
To.
And again, as I also mentioned about the weather conditions, right?
Yeah.
Based on rainfall, and if we have to put notices about dry weather conditions, if we see our reservoir levels dropping, we'll put notices up.
I don't know if you're the right person to ask, or the engineer is the right person to ask.
He's an engineer too.
Lots of engineers here, wonderful. You know, this island, I call this the island of waterfalls. They're everywhere. And all that water goes to the ocean, right? Pretty much.
Well, a lot of it makes it into
Seepage, there's seepage,
seepage
yeah,
into
so,
groundwater where we can
Yeah,
access
but
a lot of that through wells.
when it comes so quickly, though, it just
Yeah,
flows out,
a lot
right?
of it goes, sure.
Are there ways to capture it?
There are ways to capture it.
There are, I don't think we have any physically built on this island right now. There's stuff as retention basins that can increase.
So that might
preparation,
be something we look at in the future.
possibly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all.
Okay, if you want to take a couple of questions, or want to give Chris.
So I was gonna let Kurt speak about some of our future capital improvements that we have for this area, but if you have other questions of what I just mentioned.
I was just wondering, I don't know anything about membrane treatment, but if that's a kind of treatment, does that mean our water isn't chemically treated?
So, sorry, the membrane treatment is just a physical barrier. It's just like this mesh. It's a filter, very fine filter. So it's a physical barrier. After that, we do add chlorine and ammonia. It's called chloramines that we have to disinfect with. Yes. I think. Oh,
I've always thought that Waimea water is the best tasting water on the island. Is that because of the membrane treatment, or because it comes from streams, or?
it's probably the source. Yeah.
The
Yeah, source of water.
Yeah.
Dr. David here, and then we'll take over.
Kurt, you might,
Kurt.
you might touch on the sampling that's done
Oh,
to different water systems.
yeah.
and
So-
the lab testing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you, David. So as I mentioned, safe drinking water. Our business is providing safe potable water to all of our customers. Because of that, we have 23 water systems across the island. Everyone is regulated by the Safe Drinking Water Act on the EPA. So we are mandated by that to regularly, monthly, and more than that, test the water. Even more often than that. I think because we have run a surface water treatment plant, it's every day. We have continuous monitoring equipment to monitor for turbidity, for make sure we're disinfecting the water correctly. So yes, rest assured that there's a lot of requirements we are required to meet.
One question here, one in the back, and then we'll take these three and then we'll move on to Kurt. That's right, yeah, please.
You said you had 2 deep wells.
Mhm.
Are there any plans in the future to put more deep wells? How many deep wells are there on the island?
Okay, so first question, are there any, for this area right now, I don't think so. Kirk can mention that. Not immediately in this area.
Yeah.
Island-wide, we have about 70, 80-ish deep wells island-wide, I think.
And the reason I was asking is I've been told that there's lots of water. It's just, you have to go really deep to get it.
Subsurface.
Every time we look at Hilo, there are so many new homes being built here and there and here, and then growth potential is going to require more water. I'm just wondering if they're looking at more deep well possible.
Right.
Thank you.
Go back to Chris in the back and then we'll go over to the side.
What are the percentage of the chloramines? Is it like 12% or something?
Like
a national disinfection percentage it has to be, or is it just specific to Hawaii?
So chloramines, I don't know if there's actually a maximum concentration level, but I know for chlorine, it's supposed to be less than 4 parts per million. But we don't even get that close. Like if it's chlorine, it's less than 1 part per million.
And because it's area, yeah, versus.
No, like, we even try to keep it below that. Where,
Okay, one more question.
Question just is about how much lead is in the distribution system?
That's a good question. So in our sources, virtually nothing, no lead in our sources. What we've learned from the lead and copper rule, and in the past, it typically is because of the plumbing systems, so the private plumbing systems, the old. The old galvanizer, if there are lead lines in the house and they leach out. So yeah, there could even be the fixture, maybe it was a leaded fixture.
Distributions, the mains and stuff.
We haven't really come across any, because there are systems that we took over built before us, but we haven't come across any lead in our system. Even checking back with the old people, old timers, sorry. I'm old. I'm becoming one of those old timers, but there are people prior to me that really worked on all the plantation systems, but probably where we anticipated we would have found.
So just to clarify what Kurt said, in our sources, we haven't seen lead as far as I know, but we do have systems on the island which we acquired through plantations that we are having to do corrosion control treatment because the source may be a spring, which is typically a little bit more, the pH is a little bit lower. So when it goes through the house plumbing, you might see lead leach out of the plumbing. So because of that, we're treating the source. Yes, we have like pH control. Yeah.
Thank you for that question. So yeah, Kurt, if you want to dive into some other, I saw your hand go up. Sorry about that.
So I just wanted to let Kurt speak about some of our capital improvements.
Okay. Sorry.
You guys looking at that hole.
No.
I'll get you regardless, whatever you want.
No, okay. Sorry, but I'm not sure, this is not necessarily Waimea. Waimea's water system is actually called our South Kohala water system.
Yes.
But there's also 2 projects that I want to mention about that's actually from our Lalamilo water system, which services Vanalani to the south, the coastline all the way to Kauai. So basically, one project that we just broke ground this week is Puoko water line replacement. So that project is just starting. And hopefully it'll be some interruption down there, but we know how much we put out quite a bit of notices about main breaks and whatnot down there. So we're putting in a new line that's actually it's a treated pipe. And it's going to also have a treated poly wrap to help, I guess, protect the pipe in that kind of environment to hopefully slow down any corrosion of the pipe material. Anyway, that one is, basically the whole Puoko Beach Drive we're replacing, except the very end where they just recently put that in with the subdivision.
What do you anticipate time-wise?
About a year from now, we're hoping, contractor is going to have to really figure out what they can do, especially during king tides nowadays. Yeah, because the tide will have an influence on their schedule. But that project, hopefully done in a year. We're also just about to begin our 10 million gallon reservoir. It's not open reservoir like that. Most people look at it as a tank. It's going to be in that same system up near the windmills, actually. So it's we finally got everything squared away. But we're probably looking to break ground on that beginning of next year. So
that will service the coast.
That will service that system there. It'll store raw water, meaning it's not treated with chlorine yet. That system is all groundwater. So it's not chlorine and ammonia. Our disinfection is just chlorine. But that one will store the raw water. It'll basically help us do things, right? Have more storage capacity just in terms of water for that system. And 2 is really allow us to utilize wind energy more. and reduce our dependency on, the Hawai'i Electric, their system there.
Is there a well in that area?
There are 8 wells for that system, all in that area.
And what depth do they go to?
They're all at about, I want to say 11 to 1,200 feet in elevation. They all basically go down to sea level where the groundwater is at that point, yeah.
So are there any plans to look for artesian wells along the coast?
We don't have any plans right now, but my understanding is that may be something that the Commission on Water Resource Management may be looking into.
Yeah, because it'd be cheaper to pump water from 100 feet rather than 1,000 feet, because you'd have to have pumps that produce 400 pounds of pressure for 1,000 feet. So you get 2,000 feet, you have like 800 pounds.
Right, and that's something that we are exploring, like we know it exists in Kona. So that's something we are exploring in that area.
So we're gonna take a couple questions, and we have one more guest we wanted to get to, and we are gonna go over time a little bit. I apologize, so thanks for everyone sticking. Chair, you had your hand up. I want to make sure that you have a little time, and I have one question for you as well. So we'll take a couple, and then we'll try and move on if we can. Thank you. Please share.
I'm gonna sneak in 2 questions. One, have we finished the PFAS testing? And 2, anything you guys are doing differently process-wise or thinking about the future as a result of the Maui fires? Thinking about our water.
Okay, so for PFAS, yes, thank you for asking that. So we've started, I believe, South Kohala testing already, no detects. Because it is a surface water system of that size, I think it's quarterly we're doing testing. So we did maybe 1 or 2 batches of that and on non-detect for, I think this PFAS, it analyzes like 29 different and lithium or something. So it's all non-detect for the system. Actually, for all of our systems thus far, and we've done some preliminary ones, but the South Kohala system is the first one for us on this, under this rule. So that's good. That's good to know. Thank you. And then as far as prepping for, I guess, lessons learned for our system on Maui, yeah, we're kind of doing another internal review from source to tap.
And maybe I can just state that one of the benefits of that 10 million gallon reservoir also is to have that extra storage of water in there.
Yeah, and we've had a meeting, I think staff had one with Hawai'i Electric, and making sure we're on the same page with them of how they do their operations, so we can then coincide our operations and relay that information to our customers, right? Of how to prepare for
also
certain events.
Prepping with acquiring more backup generation in case they shut their grid down and we still need to pump water. Will be limited for sure because of the power it takes. We won't have enough fuel to run it for very long. But yeah.
Good question across the room. Yes.
Yeah, is Waikoloa on private water?
Waikoloa Village, yes, Waikoloa Village is private water, and down into the Waikoloa Resort area is private.
What's the origin of that? Why is that the case that they're on private?
From my recollection, they've always been a private.
They've always been.
Yeah, maybe when
they initially developed, I think, within the village where the
sources
are, and they, Sorry, you might know. I guess he stood up real fast.
Was when Waikoloa was developed, it was very remote from Waimea. And there was no piping going out that far. And for the Board of Water Supply to step in and run a pipeline out that far, the question then would be, do we have the water here to support it? This was before wells and stuff. And then Waikoloa developed their own water system with their own wells.
Let's send that back.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Is the remediation work on the reservoirs complete?
That was something I was going to bring up also. Thank you. So we have one reservoir still that needs to be repaired. We started, there were unforeseen. So what happened was when we drained the reservoir, so we had to wait. We had 2 reservoirs that were damaged from the 2006 earthquake. We did the repair on one that we had to drain completely. The other one, we kept it at half capacity. And we, that way we didn't see the leak seepage coming out of the reservoir. But so the one that we had to drain completely, we did the repairs and that was completed about 2011. And at that time in 2011, then we were able to drain that other reservoir that was damaged. And we did a survey, right, to assess the damages because we really couldn't see the damages until we drained it complete. So with that, we did the plans to repair it. And so we went through all the processes with FEMA. And then we also had to look at, okay, what do we need to do to build it back to current requirement, code requirements. It required us getting a little bit more land to beef up the embankment. And then it went into some of the Department of Hawaiian Homeland's kind of conservation lands. So it took some time to get that process through to get their approval. And actually, really, by the time we got to bidding it out and we had a contractor go out, the reservoir had completely changed. So when we first drained the reservoir, I guess with the weight of the water that was in there, panels were in that condition as it was when we drained it. Now, without the weight, what happened was, what we saw was the panels started to creep. I guess there's no weight pushing out, so it started to creep back in. And we found all the joints really lifted and cracked. There was a lot of spalling. Really not, the contractor had to use the plans to bid, right? And so
basically, yeah, we, like what Thurs mentioned, we put it out to bid, got bids, and we awarded it to a certain contractor. But when they got out in the field, the field conditions were totally different than what they bid on. So we just had to agree to say, we can't proceed, it's not gonna be right.
We had to redesign.
So we redesigned them and now planning to put it out to bid again.
Yeah.
This year, right?
Well, we were hoping to have found funding for it.
Yeah.
But we were denied that request.
So we're still working on it.
We will still put it out shortly because it's a priority for us, right?
Yeah.
A question online, Patty?
Yeah, I do. And the question is, what is the water department doing to address the high energy cost of producing water?
That's a good.
So as Kurt mentioned in the Lalamilo well field, one of this is with that 10 million gallon storage tank. It'll help us take advantage or make more use of the wind energy produced. Basically, we're getting a pumped water storage facility where when there are higher winds and the wind turbines can spin, we can pump our wells, fill up the tank. And then when there's no winds, high use, we can just let gravity flow out. Got it? So the way our rates are set up is we have a general use rate and a power cost charge. The power cost charge the formula is our cost from the electric utility divided by consumption item-wide. So all of our customers are paying a cost per 1,000 gallons consumed, right? So it kind of depends on the usage. How we try to manage that is we have an energy management analyst in-house. We've had him for that position for a while, where they look at where we can be more efficient. Certain things, replacing equipment to get more efficient equipment, motors. Help Hawai'i Electric, I think, gives us a credit sometimes when we put power factor correction units, something in our control buildings. So we invest money in that. We know on our systems where we can lessen leaks on our system. We have staff that actively go out to look for leaks and try to repair it proactively. Because if we reduce leaks on our side, in theory, it'll help us reduce our pumpage, right? So it'll lower our pumping costs, our electricity costs. So there are other tasks that we are looking at to try to reduce our power use. But yes, that is an important, that's a concern for us too, yes, because we know it affects our customers.
Okay, I'm gonna pause it there so we can get to our last guest. Sorry, we have a couple other questions that come up. We'll try and get them at the end.
What was your question?
No, my question was already asked, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. We'll be around. Yep. I'd like to welcome our last guest, and I thank you for your patience, Yishan. Grateful to have you join us here. Just wanted to kind of move in a little bit of different direction. We're still talking about water and water resources. But our final guest here he was with us here 2 years ago, provide some insight into reforestation efforts as well as desalination systems to tackle effects of climate change along our coastal areas. So grateful to have Yishan Wong join us once again. He's the founder and CEO of Terraformation. Mahalo, Yishan, thanks for joining us. Floor is yours.
Aloha. Aloha. Is this screen sharing working? I'm a little sure. Okay, great. Well, I'm very honored to be invited. We have generally, so I'm the CEO of Terraformation, and our mission is to accelerate global reforestation as one of the leading solutions to climate change. We think, trees are a very efficient, reliable, and safe way to remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and reducing greenhouse gases. And I think that it's an underappreciated and very scalable solution to climate change. So our company sort of has two parts in what it's doing. And basically, you could sort of think of them as like all the stuff that we do in the rest of the world, and then the things that we do on this island. So in the rest of the world, we do a lot of talking, sort of to, finance people or tech people or policymakers, or, like Bill Gates. And that's all like one conversation. Here in Hawaii, we operate sort of totally differently because people here in Hawaii sort of just like get it. They already understand the value of restoring the land and respecting the land, what water means. And I think much of the rest of the world sort of, has sort of forgotten that or needs to relearn it. So here in the state, we're kind of quieter. Like I haven't been able to get around as much just during the pandemic, just due to family medical issues. And we just try to, do our work. We have these projects, we're trying to restore the land. And recently we had a reporter actually come talk to us, and she wanted to help get the word out. And so we sort of got an article in a magazine. And so, I think David just invited me to come and give an update on how things have been going. And so I'll sort of give a bit of background about how we started, what the whole origin of this was, and then I'll show people what has happened and what possibilities might be open by this. So in 2017, I happened to buy a piece of property way out on the Kohala coast, and it's completely off grid. It's not near any power grid or any water grid. And I later found out it was actually precisely in the middle of nowhere. There's a sort of power grid that comes down from Hawaii and a power grid that sort of comes up from the Kohala Ranch area. And the power lines just end there. And this property was like right in the middle of like the area that was not served. And so I had this, crazy idea. I knew what I was doing. I knew there wasn't power there. And I had this crazy idea, like, what if we could regreen this? Because, that area is more or less a desert, ever since the sandalwood trees were cut down and goats aren't up there. So like the cattle from Parker Ranch sort of grazed and kept the trees from growing back. And so it became a desert. And so I thought, what if we could regreen it? And I knew like, well, you can desalinate water because it had a brackish water well. So I was like, well, we desalinate this brackish water and we can power it using solar, right? And so I didn't know anything about what I was doing at the time, which is no utilities. I thought, okay, maybe we can do this. And so we did a bunch of math, and this is what we ended up building. This actually took something like 2 or 3 years to build, because I'm not like a professional, and I'll talk more about that. And then back there are these tanks on the hill. And so like this is all kind of, it's all open. If anyone wants to come by, we'd be happy to give you a tour. I can basically talk your ear off forever about all the technical aspects. We have staff who can do the same. And so inside the barn, this is what it looks like. So this this probably looks like really complicated, but it's actually fairly simple. Desal equipment is really just like these large white tubes. And the way desalination works is you have a membrane. This is very similar to the membrane system that was just discussed, except that it's a little bit different in that the membrane is a little bit smaller. And what it does is it filters out salt. And so you just pressurize the water and you push the fresh water across the membrane, leaving the salt on the other side. So we have these like 4 tubes that have membranes in them. And then here you have these 2 blue things. These are the primary motors that pressurize the water. And then everything else is just sort of, support equipment for that. And so what we do is we take the brackish water in this area where there's no water and it's otherwise very, very dry. And we're able to produce quite a bit of fresh water. Because we found, and we can do this at a relatively affordable rate because, and this, we didn't really know this was happening when we built it, but it turns out that in 2018, the cost of solar power dropped below that of fossil fuels. And this is actually a really, really big event for the world. And now it's like, 5 years later, and now solar power is actually the cheapest form of energy available to mankind. And it's clean, which is really, really important because it used to be that the cheapest form of power was fossil fuels, but it was really, really dirty. So suddenly now the cheapest form of power is clean. And that makes a really, really big difference because it suddenly makes desalination possible. Desalination is not a new technology. It's just one that takes quite a bit of energy. And if you have a cheap form of power, and it's clean, you can suddenly, it sort of changes the whole game. And I'll sort of talk about why that is. And so what we did was we decided, hey, if we can produce this fresh water on a relatively affordable basis, maybe we can restore this place. And so we began a native forest restoration program. And it's been 2 years. And we now have kauai trees and many other species growing that would not otherwise be able to grow in this area. I wasn't sure how detailed I'd come across on this monitor, but if you can see the details, there's actually several trees behind this one. They're sort of outlined against the ocean there. And then here's another one, like looking across in another direction of the field. That spot there, that's actually our dog Bridge. She's there to patrol and keep pigs away. And you can also see actually near her and just behind her, there are even more trees like this that are growing. These are predominantly kauai trees because they were the prevailing species in that area other than the sandalwood trees. And in order to restore the sandalwood forests, the sandalwood is hemiparasitic, and so it needs another tree to grow on. So you actually have to grow these succession waves of species. First the kauai and other species, and then you plant the sandalwood. So turning back towards the ocean, you can see there's more trees. I think this is actually a clearer view. And just for scale, this is a 7-foot tall man standing next to this. Ladies, I'm very tall. No, okay. I'm 5'9" when I'm not slouching. But what's notable is actually I took this picture actually about a year and a half ago. And so that's really just like after a year or so, we already had trees that were exceeding, average human male height. A lot of people think that tree, one of the things like you sometimes hear about like, oh, when people mention tree planting as a solution to climate change, a lot of people say like, trees are too slow, right? But that's not true. They grow really fast. And what's more important is actually they begin pulling CO2 out of the air, out of the atmosphere from the moment they're planted, right? Like they're taking CO2 out of the air and combining it with water and sunlight and turning it into plant material. Like they're actually starting right away the moment they're planted. And in fact, they grow the fastest when they're young. You know, it's just like children, right? They grow up so fast. You know, this one's like taller than me. In fact, in the same 2 years, you know, my son went from being like this to like, so same deal. They grow very fast. If you are able to provide them with water, and this can now be done even in dry conditions. So our company actually tracks every tree that we plant, you know, just for general accountability. And you know, trees are nice. They don't care about privacy. They stay in one place. They don't tend to move around. And so now here we have like an entire sort of digital representation of our forest, and you can see all the species that we've planted. And so you can get a lot of ecological information about what's going on. Now, my team also always insists that I show the following, which is this one. This is actually another one of our projects on the island. And it's actually up near Waimea. It's just off of Mud Lane. And that's Lopaka. He's the team lead for this project. He's my height. And that tree there is, I think, younger than that other tree that I'm standing next to. So that is an example of just how fast they really grow under ideal conditions if water can be brought to the region. And I think like everyone who, so this is the thing I have to explain to people who are not in Hawaii, but I think like everyone in Hawaii kind of knows this. Like I know that my kids learn this in school here, which is, you know, rain doesn't bring trees. The forests bring the rain. So if you can just sort of bootstrap that up and get the forest started, the rains come back, it changes the land and it regreens it. And so, you know, Lopaka's team, their project is even more impressive. So 17,000 plants. I think he's got room for twice as many. And they're restoring this biodiverse forest up there. I think if you can see the details right there, it's right off of Mud Lane. If anyone wants to come and visit and just see it, like I think the team there would love to give anyone a tour. So this is, many of our projects are made possible through solar desalination, or at least the first one I showed you. This one is great because it gets enough natural rainfall. And so solar desalination is really interesting because, as I said, solar is now the cheapest energy known to mankind, actually solar and wind. So, you know, we mentioned some windmills earlier. Solar and wind are now cheaper than fossil, and that's very, very important. Now, you might wonder, it's like, okay, well, last time I tried to get solar panels for my house, it was still really, really expensive. And the reason for that is because solar doesn't work at night. If you need it to work at night, you need to have batteries. You need to, you know, store the solar power in batteries, and then you use it and turn on your light at night. And batteries are still really, really expensive. And that's really why the world isn't yet able to easily go to solar and wind. But the thing is, desalination doesn't need to run at night. You can just turn it off at night and you can run it during the day. And what that means is desalination can now be run using the cheapest form of energy that we have. It's clean, and you just run it when the sun's out. And it works very, very well in Hawaii, where it's really sunny all the time. In fact, this is something that is probably going to have a huge effect on many, many islands. Islands are going to come under significant water scarcity pressure as climate gets worse. There's a question earlier about, you know, do we have enough water for our growth? And thanks to a very wise water planning department, we will. However, on a sort of fundamentally longer term basis, right? Like water is a thing that's just sort of scarce around the world. And as climate change is worse, it's going to be hard. And so this presents us with just another sort of, I guess, solution for our, you know, in our toolkit. So the last time I was invited, I know there was this like really great chart that was shown. I actually really, really love these water distribution charts. Like I'm a real water nerd. So I got a copy of this. And I really am. So like, you know, those other maps that were put on like earlier today, I took screenshots of those too, because I just like love these water like distribution maps. Yes, raise your kids to be like me. Totally nerdy, loves water. And so these represents the piping systems all over the island that distribute water. And so to sort of illustrate sort of like what can be done, let's sort of zoom in on the Waimea area here. I think David mentioned that the Waikoloa area is on an independent water supply system. That's not necessarily the case for all the resorts. You'll notice here that sort of the resorts that are a little bit closer to Kauai are part of the system. And if I'm not mistaken, so please correct me if I'm wrong, like we supply them with water. The water system goes all the way down there, and the resorts get at least a considerable fraction of their water from the main sort of municipal sources. And this is really the case actually all over the world. Water supply is generally from, rain that comes down. It sometimes goes into the aquifers and you pump it back up, but it's basically, the water cycles. It rains, goes into the mountains, comes down, and we spend millions of dollars taking rain that comes from the mountains and piping them right back down to the shore. And the shore is right next to a bunch of water, but it's salt water. We can't drink it. So this is like this great irony, which is like human beings like to live near the shore. I think it's something like 60% of the world's population lives within 50 miles of the coast. And yet, despite being right next to water, there's this entire, I call it like the tyranny of water that's been the case since like the beginning of history, where water has always come down from the mountains, and you always have these water wars of like who controls the water, who can get the water. You often have like wealthy communities at the coast who are able to influence the fact that they get the water, and then people who are a little bit inland don't have as many rights to it. You probably know in Maui, they're trying to resolve this problem. They have like these bitter water wars that are just intractable. And this little change that has come about when it comes to like solar power becoming cheap enough now to power desalination means that we can now overcome this fundamental problem for the first time in human history. Because now what we can do is we can create solar desalination systems here down by the coast. And it's also sunny there, right? Like solar power works very, very well. You have lots of seawater, and you can desalinate it, and you can create solar desalinated water near the coast. And then all the water that comes down from the mountains doesn't have to be piped down there anymore. And sometimes people like make a mistake and they think like, well, okay, solar desalinated water, it's a little bit more expensive. Like, why would we want to like make our water more expensive? And they sort of miss the point, which is, yes, that water is a bit more expensive, but now we have twice as much water. Yeah. Now we have another source of water. So you're producing more water here. The water that we get from nature, the way we've always gotten it, is now preserved. It does not have to be used down here. And so now everybody has twice as much water. I think this is a concept that is much more readily understood here, specifically in Hawaii, because water means wealth. The rest of the world does not fully understand this. Other places where they have water scarcity, they kind of get it. Right? But here it's like literally water is considered wealth. And I think it's a concept that people can really, really understand here, because now with solar power as cheap as it is, we can just create more water. Everyone can have more water. It isn't just twice as much water. It could be 3 times as much, 4 times as much. There's like so much seawater, solar power just gets cheaper and cheaper. And everyone can really have as much water as they need. And I think this is very important for our island in a sort of like long-term, like the sort of possibilities that this opens up. All islands actually are going to come under water scarcity with climate change, because fundamentally, you have growth, right? You have more people, and you have the same amount of rain, right? Like if you have more, you can even think of it in terms of tourists. Tourists don't bring more water; they bring more water pressure and water usage demand, right? But the weather, the water cycle is going to produce the same amount of water in terms of rain as it has for millennia, right? But if we have more people, more tourists coming, more water demand, that imbalance is going to get greater and greater over time. And then climate change is just making it even worse. Like, I don't even want to think about that, right? And so we have the same amount of rain or maybe less rain, right? Or very sudden floods. And there's a suggestion earlier, like, can we catch that water? And we can. But it's just very hard to like catch a whole bunch of water all at once, and then where do you store it, right? Like, and so like we're getting the same amount of rain, we have more people or more tourists, right? And so the world, especially islands, needs more ability to produce and control the sources of water for themselves. And so solar desalination becoming affordable enough has arrived just in time. Because there's a near infinite amount of seawater. I'm almost, am I running over? I think I'm almost done.
Yeah, that's all right.
Sorry, I get really into this.
Thank you. Yeah, if you want to.
Okay,
I'll just. Thank you.
Sure. Should I just stop because I'm at the end?
Yeah. That's perfect. That's perfect. Okay. I want to see questions for you actually. Thank you, Sean.
Sure. Okay.
One question, Nishan, was where people can find information about your projects and your work that you've been doing. Where can they go to find that?
Usually I say you can go to our website, like terraformation.com/Hawaii. We have a special page. The team here locally in Hawaii is like building that page out with more information right now. And in fact, people going there and asking them questions will actually inform what they decide to put more of on that page. But there's also the thing where it's like, it's a small town, just like talk to any of us and I'll talk your ear off. If you want more information, like email me and Ishan at Terraformation or Ishan at Gmail. I will just answer your questions. You can get straight from the top. So website or me. Yeah.
Any other questions for Ishan? Yes.
What happens to the salt that gets removed from the water?
So the question is about the byproduct, the salt byproduct from the desalination efforts.
That's actually a really great question. So there's multiple solutions to that. And I think the most important thing is actually that there's a bit of a misconception that the salt is like the sort of toxic chemical byproduct, like as though it were like a chemical production plant or something. It's actually just salt. Like literally you have this, this tank of water and you push the water over and the salt is just kind of left behind. And so what it is that salt isn't anything that you didn't already have coming out of the ocean, right? And so it depends on how concentrated the salt is. In many cases, you can use even that salty water to irrigate more saltwater tolerant plants. We actually do that at our facility, the one that I just showed you. And so we're actually able to green like twice as much land. And for some reason, our dog likes to bathe in it too. I think it's like the salty water is, it's kind of like ocean water. And that's partially because the brackish water is only a quarter as saline as the seawater. And so once it's concentrated, it's still only half as saline as the seawater. So you can actually just use it. So that's one solution. The other one is if it's extremely concentrated, you can concentrate it further and turn it into salt cakes. Salt cakes are actually just an economically useful product that you can sell. And then there's the other one. So there's this nice little continuum where if it's really salty, you can turn it into salt, which is useful. If it's not that salty, you can still use it to irrigate the plants that are more okay with salt water. And then there's the third solution, which is what the Israelis do, which is you build a big pipe out into the middle of the ocean. And, we're very good at building pipes. And you can just inject it into the deep ocean, which is totally okay because there's a lot more currents there. And because it's just salt that you pulled out of the ocean in the first place, those currents are able to spread it out. And they've done studies on their coastline, and they have a very limited coastline, so they care a lot about it. And it hasn't had any negative ecological effects. So there's a whole bunch, there's like a couple other ones, but I can tell I'm sort of already.
That's good. Perfect. Thank you. Well, I think we're gonna wrap up there. Ishan, thank you so much for your time and your patience for being here on the end. Thank you so much.
Cool. Thank you.
look forward to having you back as well. We look forward to having our water supply, our water supply leaders as well, and kind of continue this conversation. You know, this is really crucial to what our Waimea and South Kohala areas are. You know, this is what people live here for, the beautiful Vai in our communities. So thank you. Thanks everyone for sticking on a little longer here. It's really great to be with you here, learn about these different projects, connect with our community leaders. Just gonna say the last few words as we close. Mahalo nui to all of our presenters for joining us here tonight, for taking the time to update our viewers, our attendees, and for welcoming, you know, those hard-hitting questions from our community members and taking those back to your departments and kind of moving forward with those ideas and those issues. We're grateful for your leadership and the commitment to our community here, especially during this time. So thank you. Thanks all for our viewers online. Really appreciate you joining us on the live stream, and attendees here as well. You're also welcome to rewatch this a little bit later if you missed something. And we're grateful for all of your support. And mahalo, of course, to our friends here at Tutu's house. You're welcome to revisit and rewatch this recording up on our Facebook page or YouTube channel. And then as Nancy mentioned early on, our next month's meeting is November 15th, Wednesday, November 15th. So a different day of the week, different part of the month at Kahilu Town Hall. And we look forward to having you join us that evening as we honor and recognize our community first responders. So we hope to see you there. And on behalf of the Waimea Community Association Board, I wish you good health, be well, aloha. Thanks everyone, have a good night.
Yeah.